Hi, Eli Roberts here. Today I'm talking to you about the GFX 100S, my favorite camera I've ever used. I've used a lot of cameras. Once this system came out, mirrorless, medium format, I knew I had to have it, so I had to wait a little bit, let the price come down, buy a used one. But yeah, since I've had it for about a year and a half, it's my favorite. And I use it for as much as I can. Photograph weddings, families, portraits, photojournalistic stuff like for magazines, and a lot of personal. I traveled to Iceland with it, Canada this year, or last year in 2022. And yeah, just got some great images. It's 100 megapixels. I do shoot in a compressed log or RAW so that I don't have to, fill up my hard drives. They're coming out around 60 to 70 megabytes, which isn't that large when you consider 100 megapixels. But yeah, the images are phenomenal. You can shoot in 16-bit if you want. It does take you down to one image or a single drive. So you can't do continuous photos. So on a wedding day, I generally will just shoot 14-bit. But yeah, you can really push the files super hard in color when you're shooting in 16-bit, which I did in Iceland. Um, when I shoot a wedding, I'm using Canon. I am messing around with Fuji system right now on APS-C, mostly for personal. That's what I'm guessing right now. I just took it to the coast, and I did photograph tattoo artists with it as well as the GFX 100S. Want to see if these would match up a little bit better, which they do when you're shooting them side by side. Maybe someday I might shoot a wedding or an engagement with both cameras just really to match them up. But Canon is what I know, and I have a lot of lenses for it. And so the 28 to 70 is just an amazing lens. So this is always on my right side when I'm shooting a wedding, and on my left, or any portrait or anything, is the GFX 100S on the Clever Supply Co straps. And yeah, just get into this camera. I'm going to get into some photos as well on the computer so we can make a little more sense of all this. But ergonomics are great. This thing fits my hand perfect. The 100 had a larger grip, which I never tried, but I imagine that being way too big because it is a little bulky, but it is does have IBIS, and it is a medium format sensor. So you can see that big giant sensor in there. Just for fun, for comparison, we'll just show you. I mean, this camera still takes amazing images, but it is a small sensor. And if you've never seen a full frame sensor, there's that as well. So, all right. So on to that overhead camera as well. But yeah, just crazy. You get on the 80 mil a 63 millimeter perspective, so pretty close to when I'm out at 70 mil on this camera. But yeah, 63 is a cool perspective. I mean, 50 is great too, but when you're considering that 80 mil compression, everyone's tall. It just doesn't bend. It's perfect. You can use panoramics, all kinds of stuff. And then when you get into the 45 mil, both these lenses are super light. This lens is heavier than this lens, which is crazy. So if you have the 50 mil, which you would, kind of compare to the 80 mil on this system, the body is lighter on this one. So I think when you combine these two, the 50 mil and the R5 and the 80 mil and the GFX, it's the same weight. You're just getting a little bit bigger system. But all the buttons are great. They could be a little more tactile in some spots. The way I've used this camera is I set S to back button focus or front button focus. That way I can just set my focus, take the picture. Focus on this is a little slow. So I want to make sure I nail it. I'll tap it, recompose, take the photo. If I do want to mess around with some continuous shots with my kid, I'll go to SC and I set that to enable the shutter to focus, release, and release. So with S, it's just releasing the shutter. It's not focusing. I'm going to use one of these buttons. And then I've got ISO in the back. I've got my shutter speed in the front, and I've got my big old aperture wheel up here on both lenses, which I love. But yeah, other than that, I mean, this camera is pretty much straightforward. I take it out when I know I can use it. There's times when I'm just like, yeah, I got to use this guy right here. I need focus. Someone's coming down an aisle, things like that. This camera is not going to do it for me. So if you're locked off doing family photos, portraits, even some first dances, I'll take it out, or ceremonies, or a first kiss, something like that. Or, toasts. It's fun too, but it's a bit overkill for a lot of that. Really, I just want to use it to get those colors for those portraits to make everything look amazing. I did photograph a tattoo artist with this yesterday, and the colors are going to pop, which is going to be awesome. So I've already looked at a few, and it's going to be rad. So yeah, high ISO, this thing kills it. It's nuts. You can go, 2000 plus. You can go to 10,000 with R5, R3, R6, and it's going to be okay. You're going to be all right, walk away. But with this camera, the grain structure is so small that if you're shooting at 10,000 ISO, you're going to get something you can print. It's pretty crazy. Blows my mind every time. And I always forget that I can push it because I'm kind of used to thinking, 2000, yeah, that's probably okay. But yeah, love the colors out of this camera. You get film simulations. So if you wanted to put those on a JPEG, you could. You're going to view the film simulation through your camera. So immediately you're seeing something beautiful, really pretty. And then when you get to your computer, you just have to go up to profiles, and then you select the film simulation that you wanted or that you shot with to get that back, because it's going to be a raw image. I don't really use the JPEG outputs because I always use raw, but you could. I've sent stuff to my phone and then just brighten it up in Lightroom Mobile, and it was amazing. But yeah, you get a lot of color variation, and that really depends on the film simulation you use. But when you go to edit, your blues are going to be really deep in the shadows, and then you're going to get really warm highlights. And I just think it's like color dynamic range is just nuts. It's beautiful. But yeah, I've loved this camera. I take it to every shoot I can. There's times when I'll go to do a family session and I just know it's not going to keep up with kids, so I'll just leave it behind. And I could just shoot with this system and be fine, but I'm always wanting to try new stuff and experiments and try and find the best way I can create photos for my clients. And I know every time I hear this shutter click that I'm just getting like a big old banger image. It's just, you can hear it. It is click clunk. Let me get into continuous so you can just kind of see what that buffer is like on this thing. So, and then you're down to, not really knowing if you're going to get a photo. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't really need it to do too much other than just take portraits. I've taken a lot of landscapes with it too, which I don't go out so much to take landscapes, but when I'm on vacation or shooting, there's stuff, I just take a picture without my clients and then put it on stock image website, or print it out for myself. But yeah, other than that, the tilt screen's great. I love, I'm not, it's not a deal breaker for me, but I do love this type of tilt where you can flip it out, or you can just come from the bottom, flip it up. It's just it's got a good feel to it, and it's very robust. See, it's a beefy one. It feels pretty tough. And then the viewfinder is great. There are times when I would appreciate a better viewfinder to know that my photo's in focus. I'll generally, focus on my client a few times, maybe 2 to 3. I take 2 to 3 different images, different focuses, to reassure that I did get it. When you get closer at 1.7, it's going to be a little more difficult than a distance. So I'm talking like 10 feet when you're really just like waist up or just trying to get like a headshot with 80, which can come out amazing, but generally I'll stop that down to 2.8 to be safe. But yeah, still, it is phase detect and contrast versus the GFX 50S and 50S2 only have contrast. So I've used those cameras and the focus hunts a lot more. This just hits it, locks, and you're done. You're getting a lot quicker acquisition. And the other one's going to be kind of frustrating because of that. So yeah. Haven't used it for video. Maybe I'll shoot a video here on some Canon stuff and set it up here. Right now we're on the XH2S in the Stia Soft for film simulation, so you can see how that color looks. I'm not a video guy. I'm trying to learn a bit of video just so I can create these videos for you. But yeah, hopefully this kind of helps you out. It's not a cheap camera, and these aren't cheap lenses. You don't have a lot of options. I'd like to, in the future, do some EF adapting. So a 35 mil or like a 105 mil from Sigma. But I do need to get an adapter. Fringer looks like the best option because it has an aperturing, so I can stay within my muscle memory. I do also, I don't know if this is much for this camera, but I prefer the aperturing to be up close to the body, where I will use this, Canon deal, but it's different on every lens. It's kind of far out, so it's not as intuitive or as comfortable to use. But these are really, they do feel good, but a little far out. Other than that, I never use the top screen. I think that's just about it for this camera. The battery life's amazing. I've tried performance boost on some of the settings, like focus, and didn't notice a big performance boost. I did know a battery drain boost, I guess you would call it. So generally I'll keep that off. I might try that out on these other cameras and see if that does anything, but I didn't notice a big difference other than my battery dying. And then I did have freeze up a couple times when I did boost for performance boost. So yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. Maybe I'll just get into the photos, and I recommend buying it. You know, it's amazing if it's something you're looking for. I don't shoot film, but I think it's the closest I get to like a medium format perspective on film. It being almost the size of a medium format film camera. But yeah, it's beautiful. Slow, but once you learn it, you know when to use it. So cool. We'll head to the computer. I'll show you some images, and yeah, if it's helpful, let me know. If not, I appreciate some of the comments. I'm working on my audio for these videos. Ordered some more equipment, and yeah, learning I know how to light it. Just learning camera settings. So head to the computer. Show you some images. We're going to run through some images here. This is going to have the metadata up on the top left, and these are low-res photos. They're just Instagram output that I put out, but yeah, or my blog. But these photos are all up on my website, so you can check them out there under the GFX review for weddings. This is a client's car. We photographed a tattoo artist for a magazine, and I can't release the portraits yet, but in the future they'll be on my Instagram, which were really cool. But yeah, gonna jump through here as quick as I can. Let's see, a portrait and elopement. Got those deep blue tones and warm skin tones. 80mm 1.7. We've got my brother here with creative portrait. We did just some video lights messing around, seeing what we could get. And this is my little cutie. She's up in our living room, and just day to day. This is a hard light portrait with a video light. Bare bulb with my brother, messing around again, 1.7, and an elopement portrait on a lake, frozen over, and yeah, just beautiful. Yeah, a little bit of snow coming down, and pretty rad session. And then just on the edge of the lake right here, and 80mm again with the mountain in the background. 45mm with my wife on vacation at a resort. And yeah, I'd probably make this a 2x3, but haven't done that yet. And nice warm summer portrait on the edge of a lake in the shade, staying cool at 80mm. 45mm on a family trip up to Glacier. And whitefish out on the dock here. I love this image. There's a lot more that I have that I really love from this spot. The sun was kind of getting close to setting, and the water was really blue, and the weather was perfect in September. And next morning in the hotel, nice warm tones on this. This is, I think, a Stia Soft with a Mastin 200 gold preset, but you still get these, you know, nice blue, like green, kind of bluish greens tones in there. This is the lobby. And up in Canada. And this was the 17mm Laowa, which is adapted. It did okay. It just, I don't know, it didn't want to focus really well. I had some focus issues with it, but it is nice and wide, which is great. And that's the 45. You can kind of see the difference. It's very warm on that lens, and the 45, a lot more true. And Iceland, and us on the way to Banff. Just stopped over. Working spot. 45mm, 45mm, and then I had rented the 17mm. I did take a picture with it, but it wasn't as sharp, but it still turned out, you know, 100 megapixels, you can sharpen almost anything. There's the 80mm, a little bit of flare, and create a portrait with the 80mm, and 80mm at 1.7, 45 at 2.8, and we have the 80mm wedding portrait. This is a panoramic. It's probably 3 images, I'm guessing, something like that. And 80mm on a dock. You can just get really close with this lens. It's a 63mm equivalent, so if you can imagine, but you get the benefits of the 80mm. So compression. This is probably a 5-image panoramic. Pretty rad. Definitely these are getting down res before they're uploaded, so not coming out the full resolution, but they're still 59 megabytes, I think. For a JPEG, that's pretty big. Here's a band shoot I did. I did a music video with the R3 for these guys, and then I just photographed everything with the GFX. And then just outside my dad's house, got a little phone booth. And another fellow photographer who's awesome, man, Fisher. See these deep blue shadows you get, and still get nice warm skin tones. And just a simple Stia Soft film simulation on that. And yep, Love this one. These guys are awesome. Get to shoot their wedding next year, but yeah, 2.8. And yeah, this one I made into a 16:9. My little girl looking at the mountains. It's in the summer, light and hitting her. Love it. And this is actually sharper than it looks here, but love this portrait. Willow tree, just amazing fall off, 1.7. Doesn't always hit at 1.7, and even if it's a little soft, it's still beautiful and you can sharpen it. This one's awesome. These guys, I didn't even, never cropped this, didn't even have to like level it. It was perfect. Straight out of camera, just with a little bit of editing. And then, yep, just messed around with the 45. This is a comparison I did between Nikon, Sony, and Canon, just for my own personally, interest. Oh yeah, it's in there. This is the 23 mil, which is a great focal length for this camera, and it's super clean. Like it's kind of funny how if you get like a 13 mil on the APS-C or 15 mil on the full frame system, you start to get more distortion. So you kind of get that perspective of like, vastness, where the 23 mil, you kind of don't really get it, but you get a lot of stuff in your image and it's super sharp. So it's kind of weird how you kind of, you notice that it's, it doesn't feel wide, but it's a lot of space in the image. So if that makes any sense at all. This lens is also really slow to focus and takes a couple jabs of focus, but this is probably my favorite walk-around lens, the 45 mil. I had the X100V with me, and I rarely used it. It's the same focal length at 23 mil on the X100V as it is on this, but generally I had both on me since I was traveling. Didn't want to leave the GFX anywhere, so I tended to use it more. When I was in my hotel room, I would go out to dinner with the X100V, but anytime I had both, I just used the GFX. But I love this. You get this super soft, like just skin tones, and like everything's there. Your highlights aren't getting blown, or it is soft light, but man, I just love this tone. This is a Stia soft, and then probably a preset laid over it, but lightly. And this is the 100 to 200 at 100 millimeter or 176. Yeah, so a lot of compression there. This lens is fun, but it is handheld. I did handhold it, and it is 5.6, so it's got a good stabilization system, but you do have to be careful. And there's a horse. 45 mil. Another 45 mil. Just some landscapes. 23 mil. 100 to 200 at 100 panoramic. So this was a pretty cool spot. Not much going on up here, but it's beautiful. That was deep blues right there. 23 mil. Well, let's see, 200 mil right there. And this is the 100, 200 at 200. And then it's probably the same location at with the 80 mil. Yeah. So it's a blue just really pops in there. And then Diamond Beach with the, so let's see, around 158 millimeter. And 173 millimeter. And this lens is just, it's super light. Like it's a little bit larger than your average 70-200, but I fit everything in one bag, had no problem. And 23 mil. Me on an iceberg at 3200 ISO, pretty late at night. Sun stays out late, but the ISO really held its own in there. Yeah, 100 of a second. I put a flashlight in the iceberg, lit it up, and then this is a 5-second at 2000, 23 millimeter at f4. So a little motion, but I think I need to turn my IBIS off. That's probably why this is there. And 80 mil. And let's see, yeah, that was 100 millimeter. This was at 200 millimeter, pretty far away, looking at this ice field. And yeah, I just love these colors. And this, yeah, it's just too cool. And there's the 23 mil. You get so much in field of view when you don't distort. It's pretty cool. There's my drone. And then 23 millimeter, 45 mil. Also, when you're shooting, 4.3, you're not getting that like feeling like you're super wide because you get so much on the top and bottom. So if you knock them down to a 16:9 or just put the camera in 16:9, it's kind of cool. 45 mil. 45 millimeter, got a little bird down here, and then there was some guy up here, girl, I don't know, someone up there, yeah. And then Abby, this should be like a, yeah, 16 by 9 or 2 by 3. And then just cruising around, big old glacier there, 16 by 9 at 45 mil, 80 mil at 2.8, and 23 millimeter at 4. This spot was awesome. I got even closer, and you really just, those deep blues really make it pop. Here's a 1000 ISO with the 5.6 at 200 mil. I cropped this one down pretty hard, but the focus wasn't amazing on that lens. It would focus, but the 45 and the 80 would just feel more accurate. And then 23 mil and 23 mil verticals, pretty fun. And what was the 45? 45 cropped, 23 mil again, 200 millimeter, it's pretty far away, trying to get the church and the rainbow. And then before we left, this was a 45 mil, just sitting at the dinner table, or the island, 2000 ISO, love that. And 2000 ISO, you can take this thing high. I don't know why I did this or put this in here, but tried the double exposure, don't recommend me doing that, yeah. All right, 1000 ISO, 2.8, 400 ISO. I think I might have had a little light on her. Yeah, a little light right here. This is actually where I'm sitting right now. So, same light, probably. Yeah, love this. This is just probably just a Stia soft film simulation. Again, just a Stia in the living room. Lights coming in, so great. And our bedroom has really good light, window light, and so love it. Sitting at the table, it's 80 mil. And this was awesome. This couple, they eloped. And we did portraits in the fall. And just, I mean, these aspens were already popping, but we had a lot of clouds in the sky, and the dynamic range of this camera is just absurd. And our friends, little family photos in the fall. These are, yeah, this is at 2.2, which is probably the safest I would do with a group, maybe 2.8, just to be sure. And then this is 1.7, there's the moon right there. It was pretty late, it was getting pretty dark, sun was down. Out on a meadow, on a lake, just making, this was a 2x3 crop. And just going through, these are all 80 mil. There's another 80 mil for some families, 2.0. 2.0, 80 mil, 1.7, 80 mil at 1.7. I pushed this image really hard. It was really dark. And I was down to, yeah, 160, 1000 ISO. So, but yeah, I pulled a lot of light out of the edit. And then, yeah, pulled in the mountain here, brought the shadows up. You can see some of the flare. It can be really beautiful. Never really is distracting, so it's good. And yep, you can see that 4.3 crop. Looks like a Brenizer photo. It's crazy. And then senior portrait, we can get here 1.7, getting closer. I went to 2.0 just to be safe there. And 1.7, pushing it hard. You can see that bokeh. Just melts the background. And in the fall, 1.7 for a group. Still works out. 2.8 here. Still got some great bokeh. 80 mil. And we got the 80 mil at 2.0. And then just some landscapes, 2.8, 200 ISO, 500 on the shutter. Just how I'm doing families. Snagging some landscapes that I see. Maybe make some stock image money. Yeah, I took a portrait, obviously, of them too, but yeah, this one, just want to show off colors. Little sun flare, no, not really flaring, but they're backlit, which was great. They're awesome. Love that. Torchios, my friends here. My kid, and my cousin and his family. This is a JPEG, straight out of camera. I didn't edit this, so no, yeah, straight out of camera. A wedding, some family shots. It's great. I generally will have the R5 or whatever Canon camera on my other side, and I'll snap a couple with that too. And these are like my I hope it works shots. You just never know, but I always want to be safe at weddings, portraits of some friends at a wedding, wedding portrait. This was elopement. See a little bit of that. Trying to get a little flare off these. Got it. 1000 ISO. And elopement, more 80 mil. And this is a 3-piece panoramic in the fall at a wedding. Trying to do some moving shots. I rarely do moving shots, so I put this on continuous, which I set so that it'll focus like servo. So it'll move where single shot is just a back button focus. And then a portrait in front of a canvas with some window light. And then this is 2000 ISO 1.7, 160, and a reception, dancing with her mom. I've got a light over here, same light that's up here, the Godox ML 60 by color. So I can match the colors if I need to, because these are really warm lights generally. And then 80 mil, 80 mil, 80 mil, 80 mil, 80 mil, 80 millimeter, 80 millimeter, 80 millimeter. This is the Midicon 65 millimeter 1.4. It's not going to tell us the aperture I was at, and we'd probably never know. It was probably at 2.0 to be safe. Again here, probably at 2.0, I'm going to guess. You have to focus and then take the picture and, you know, zoom in and all that. There's a lot of focusing tools built into the GFX, but yeah, it can be complicated. Oops. All right, back to here. Here you can kind of tell my aperture because I stopped down and it doesn't have the roundest aperture blade, so it was probably at 2.0 because you're starting to get the blades in there. But if you're at 1.0, it'd be circle. But yeah, these were awesome. We had some window light coming in and just, yeah, really cool. This is in Istanbul. I'm just wandering around at night. This is, my brother came with me to Istanbul. This is just a Stia Soft. I just edited this one right before I posted these, put these up here. But yeah, this is manual focus, which isn't easy, but it's super, like, I don't know, I want to say filmic, but I don't shoot film. But if you want a manual focus, this is the lens for you, as you get so much in the frame, and it's vocalicious. The Irix 45 millimeter, I just walked around with Istanbul, got some juice. I didn't use it much because I was a lot of times in a hurry, but just a couple images, super smooth focus ring on that thing. But this is the 23 mil. You can see my drone here, but yeah, you get a lot of field of view in this thing. Let's see. 65 millimeter Irix, or no, Midicon. Before I left, I took some portraits of my wife. Pretty rad. And then we've already seen that one. Oh, that was the, what was that? It's not giving me readout. All right, so this one here is the Midicon. It gives a weird flare at 1.4, but it's got a lot of character. Pretty rad. If you stop it down, this goes away pretty quick. But yeah, that 1.4, it does a lot of weird things in the flare. This is a 65 millimeter Midicon and a panoramic. I'm gonna guess it's 3, maybe 5 images. I think it's 3 going across. And then that is what it looks like at 1.4 when they've got some side flare popping in, which is kind of cool. It's kind of fun. That big old flare, 1.4. This is the Irix 45 millimeter. My daughter in the backyard, so I'm playing around with that, just doing some test shots. If you can focus on a kid with a manual focus lens, yeah, it's not easy, but if you can do it, you can do it at work. All right, and yeah, just testing shots in the background, same lens, 45. This is the Midicon at 12,800 ISO. Blackout curtains were down, and I was just messing around at a 50th of a second, and yeah, crazy. And then that, yeah, Midicon again. So these last images, I didn't really know what I was doing as far as editing with this camera. I wasn't using the film simulation, so the colors aren't as vibrant, which I like. I love color, but you may like more muted colors. But yeah, those are some images that I just grabbed from the last year and a half. There's way more images, but you know, I just grabbed what I could to get through this. Going to show you some examples. So, all right, hopefully that's helpful. All right, yeah, love this camera. hopefully you enjoyed watching this, and recommend going and buying it. If you have it, leave some comments. Tell me what you think of it, how much you love it, if you didn't like it and you didn't keep it. So yeah, but yeah, I'm keeping it. I love this 45 mil for personal stuff and the 80 mil for work for the most part. You don't get a lot of character out of this when you're working. If you're trying to do group shots, it can be nice to have, you know, good 100 megapixel if you're in big groups. But yeah, enough for now. And hopefully my next videos will be more about the Canon system, break down the lenses that I use, and then why I use Canon. So, all right, have a good day.